Is the Star Trek universe in danger? Are we about to see a total refresh of what we've known for the past 5 years and beyond? What will the future of the Star Trek franchise look like? Will we finally get a Star Trek Legacy series? You might have heard all these questions in the last year or so, especially in the last 24 hours. This is because we're getting one step closer to Skydance Media merging with Paramount Global, who owns Star Trek. After navigating a complex regulatory landscape for over a year, the $8 billion acquisition of Paramount Global by Skydance Media has received its final regulatory clearance. The US Federal Communications Commission, FCC, has given the green light to the transformative deal, potentially making a pivotal moment in the history of the Star Trek universe. The merger is expected to conclude in the coming weeks. However, what does this mean for the Star Trek franchise as we know it? When companies acquire companies and business changes hands, changes are expected. For example, consider how the Star Wars franchise evolved after Disney acquired Lucasfilm. Projects were cancelled and new ideas created. I mean, look, the Clone Wars animated show ended, the sequel films went into development, and it kickstarted the streaming era of the Star Wars universe with The Mandalorian. Some wins, some losses. However, will we see something like this for the Star Trek universe? It might be the case. Hello everyone, I'm Captain Jack and welcome to Trek Central. Hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with the latest developments from the Star Trek universe, because there's a lot. You can also support our videos and articles Star Trek coverage by becoming a Patreon supporter using the link below. Okay, let's talk details. First, let's talk about the impact on the Star Trek universe. Skydance has been trying to complete this merger with Paramount Global for over a year now. Several delays, lawsuits, discussions, and other offers are just a few things to name. These have held up the process along the way. The current Star Trek productions appear secure. Star Trek Strange New Worlds is expected to commence filming of its 5th and final season very soon. Season 4 just wrapped yesterday. Additionally, Star Trek Starfleet Academy is expected to air its first season this year. Likely will get confirmation this weekend at SDCC. However, the forthcoming corporate restructure will likely introduce a revised strategy for Paramount Plus, which has served as a streaming home for Star Trek over the past decade now, including when it was called CBS All Access. Reports do suggest that the new ownership team may pursue partnerships with other or more streaming platforms. The aim appears to be creating a competitive bundle capable of challenging market leaders such as Netflix, Disney Plus, and Hulu. Additionally, the incoming management has expressed greater openness to licensing agreements, which could potentially alter how Paramount has historically managed the Star Trek library. These anticipated changes could influence not only existing shows, but also shape the trajectory of any future original series in development. The franchise's streaming strategy has been central to its recent resurgence. Now, any significant adjustments could have a ripple effect throughout the Star Trek universe. Now, it is possible the new Skydance Paramount leadership will choose to take Star Trek in a completely different direction. For the moment, Alex Kurtzman and his production company, Secret Hideout, are the head of the Star Trek franchise. However, Kurtzman's deal with CBS Television Studios, which of course is owned by Paramount Global, is due to expire in 2026. Originally, his deal was extended by 5 years in August 2021. With the end of shows like Star Trek Discovery, Star Trek Picard, Star Trek Lower Decks, and productions like Strange New Worlds now winding down, it's right to say that Kurtzman's time at the helm of Star Trek looks to be slowing down considerably. However, will he be replaced? It's too early to say right now. It's possible that the new leadership of Skydance Paramount would kinda want a fresh pair of eyes to take the helm of Star Trek. There is much speculation in the Star Trek fandom about what is going to happen. However, we really don't know at the moment. It's possible that Skydance will let Kurtzman's Secret Hideout deal just expire in 2026, rather than radically change anything. There is a possibility that they will continue it, but as mentioned, I think it would likely be that a new team will be installed to run the legendary Star Trek universe. Let's talk about Star Trek films, because there's a lack of them. The merger could potentially jumpstart the dormant Star Trek film franchise. This has remained stalled in development for nearly a decade now. Despite multiple projects announced, they're not going anywhere. Skydance Media has previously collaborated with Paramount on the 2 most recent feature films, with David Ellison, who we'll talk about in a minute, serving as executive producer for both Star Trek Into Darkness and Star Trek Beyond. Currently, 2 film projects reportedly remain in active development. A franchise origin story directed by Toby Haynes, which was originally slated for a 2026 release, and a 4th installment set in the Kelvin universe, featuring the cast led by Chris Pine. Now, Ellison is poised to directly oversee Paramount Pictures if this merger goes ahead. So I imagine addressing the future of Star Trek films on the big screen would likely be a prominent item on his agenda. The Skydance approach might involve implementing a more comprehensive cross-media strategy for the franchise. This would be similar to Disney's management of Marvel and Star Wars properties, or say Warner Bros. Discovery's recent sort of handling of DC content under James Gunn's leadership, which apparently is doing rather well. This could potentially usher in a more coordinated approach to storytelling for Star Trek across television, film and other media platforms. Does Star Trek need this? Some would say yes. With regulatory hurdles now cleared, Paramount prepares to transition to a new management after experiencing a prolonged sort of uncertainty and also mounting financial challenges. The incoming leadership team brings substantial financial backing from Redbird Capital and billionaire Larry Ellison. He's father of Skydance chairman and CEO David Ellison. While the corporate structure is expected to remain largely intact, significant strategy shifts seem inevitable once the new executive team are basically in their seats. David Ellison is expected to take the helm of CEO of Paramount Global, while also overseeing Paramount Pictures directly. This dual role positions him to significantly influence the direction of major franchises, with Star Trek likely featuring prominently on his list of priorities. When the acquisition was first announced, Skydance executives indicated their intention to basically re-evaluate brands and intellectual property across Paramount's company's portfolio. Now, this would include the legendary science fiction franchise, because why wouldn't it? Skydance Media is no stranger to the science fiction genre. Its Skydance television arm is currently producing the Foundation series for Apple TV+. If you've not watched that, go watch it. Additionally, the company has produced various science fiction movies. For example, the company recently produced The Gorge, a science fiction horror film starring Sigourney Weaver. This was again for Apple TV+. Let's talk about a new course for the Star Trek universe and where we might see it go. Again, this is not confirmed and it's just speculation. Next year is Star Trek's 60th anniversary. It's a big year for the franchise. This corporate transition presents both opportunities and challenges. However, Star Trek has presented strong resistance through various ownership changes over its almost 60-year legacy. This includes strategic shifts and also market turmoil. For example, the franchise has consistently found ways to reinvent itself. We think a fresh perspective could help the Star Trek universe at this point. However, fans and industry experts will be watching to see how the new ownership handles and respects this iconic brand. Another avenue we need to consider, and one industry analysts have speculated about, is the potential for the Star Trek universe to find a new home with a new streamer. While the Paramount Plus home of Star Trek has long since not been the case, and many of you know that, could we see someone else take the helm? Potential partners that could license the Star Trek brand include Apple TV. The brand has established itself for top quality sci-fi productions like Foundation and For All Mankind. The latter of this was created by a former Star Trek production member, Ronald D. Moore. Apple TV Plus is known for having a hands-off approach to production, within reason, but also for its willingness to support theatrical releases. This could align well with Star Trek's creative needs. Personally, we could see a large partnership between Apple TV Plus and the Star Trek franchise working really well. Just think about all that crossover media on your phone and such. Now, another option is Amazon Prime Video. The streamer is a giant in the industry, having recently acquired MGM. They've also handled the international distribution of both Star Trek Lower Decks and Star Trek Picard, previously in partnership with Paramount. There is a lot of possibilities of what could happen here, and we know Paramount Plus isn't exactly doing too well as a streamer. In reality, with Paramount Skydance not yet fully complete, it may take a while before we see the effects starting to take place. For now, the Star Trek universe remains on course with Star Trek Strange New Worlds, and of course, Star Trek Starfleet Academy coming soon. However, the upcoming San Diego Comic-Con panel this weekend will provide insight into the future of the Star Trek universe. If we see new projects announced, we know things are moving forward, but we would not be surprised if there is nothing actually announced, and that kind of says something in its own right. Okay everyone, I've been Captain Jack, this has been Trek Central. We hope you enjoyed the coverage of this breaking news story, so we'll continue to bring you the latest updates via our social media, our website, and of course, this YouTube channel. Make sure you follow all of them down below using the links in the video description. And again, a big thank you for supporting the channel to all those who've checked out our Patreon. For now, I've been Captain Jack, thank you for watching, and I'll see you throughout the next week. Live long and prosper, my friends. It worked.